Actually, Galen's got Parkinson's. In scene one, the adventurers arrive, they all meet, they're told the mission. This is where I think it gets really interesting. If you only play Dungeons and Dragons or Warhammer, you might never have come across some of the things that you do come across if you look at history and the mythology of historical periods. So, for example, I looked at the mythology of feudal Japan, which is where this game is set. And I found out something very fascinating, because it's a list of characteristics and ways of looking at creatures, particularly goblins, that is totally different in the East to the West. So, in Western mythology and in Dungeons and Dragons and in Warhammer et al., Tolkien, goblins are a species. They exist as a species. They begat other goblins, so on and so forth. That's not true in Japan. In Japan, goblin is a state of being. Anything can be goblin. And I will sort of show you the differences. The first thing I'm going to show you is the lowest level of goblin, Kappa. I'll show you a picture. Now, Kappa had a new dimension to a goblin, and you wouldn't have to get rid of all your goblins. I'm not saying make all of your goblins Kappa. Those pictures of goblins are my miniature figurines goblins from 1974. They're the same figures. It could be any goblin. The goblin, as I say, it's not a species. It is a state of being. And Kappa are the lowest form. They live near water. So in Japan, you find them near streams, pools in woods, paddy fields. Anywhere where there's water, you may well find Kappa. Kappa are an irritant nuisance. They do annoying things like steal your sandals when you've gone to bed. They might pinch your tools when you go out to work. Your shovel's gone. They are low down. They play practical jokes. Put a bucket of water on top of a barn door. They are also fleet-footed and very quick to get into water and escape. They are not nasty and vicious. They are a pest and they think they're funny. But they are hogtied by a strict obedience of one type of folklore. Now, in mine, I've made mine particularly prone to good manners. So if you bow to them, they have to stop what they're doing and they have to bow back. If they don't, they're dishonoured and they can't cope with that, and they go all to pieces and run away. Now, people who've played my game and have encountered Kappa know that. In your game, that's new. And it doesn't have to be that. You might have Kappa that like cucumbers. You might like Kappa that always like to say please and thank you. But it's on that level of silliness. Kappa. And even if it's only one little group of goblins within your entire world, you can introduce it into the world you're already playing. They can appear in Dungeons and Dragons because they're the goblins you always had. But this little group of them are not lesser goblins under Mirkwood or wherever you've gone. So the next group moving up through the order of ability, I suppose, the amount of respect they need to be paid, are the Tangu. Tangu are mountain warriors. I suppose it would be important that locals wouldn't describe them as, for example, the Kappa, they wouldn't describe them as water goblins. They might describe them as pond dwellers. They might describe the smell, you would know when you met them by the smell of stagnant water, mud. The Tangu are hardened warriors, probably people who have disassociated themselves from humanity. In Japan, they would be humanish or human, maybe disaffected monks, because, like I've said, it's a state of being. In my game, I used some figures. I'm going to show you a picture of them. They're actually miniature figurines. I think they're probably sword and sorcery, late 70s. But the point is, they are, in my game, warriors of the rock, the mountain. Perhaps they guard a temple, like the Black Knight in the Holy Grail, you shall not pass. In the battle, they wouldn't join in. They watch and they judge. And after a battle, they don't come out and help. They come out and judge. And if you perform particularly well, you earn their respect. And if you perform particularly badly, they are then likely to finish you off, because that's the way they are. But they're not really integrated into society. They've distanced themselves from that. Perhaps they have a mountain that they claim as their own, and they don't want any outside interference. They're surly, they are well organised, they've got good weapons. Mine are all armoured in the same way, because I want them to look like a well-organised block of disciplined troops. Now, this next group, a lot of people, when they talk about Japanese goblins, say Oni. And Oni is that's not right. It's more subtle than that. People said in Japan, Kappa, snigger, Tangu, judge, Oni, raw. The best example I found of a probably Oni splits into two, and the first one, in a typical Dungeons and Dragons bestiary, I would describe as a bugbear. That's the characteristics. So if you think bugbear, you think this lad. He's gone into the mountains, and weird things have happened to him, and he's lost all sense of humanity. He's changed into something that doesn't even look human. This is a terrifying, physically vicious, not to be reasoned with, crazy beast. And of all of the creatures that have become goblin, this is the most animalistic and ferocious. Now, in some ways, the final category is the most unusual of all and doesn't naturally fit into Dungeons and Dragons type scenarios. It's something that would be it would hardly be named. It would be the thing in the hills, that terrible monster. It used to hunt animals. Now it hunts people, they would say. It can take many forms, and those forms are often diabolical. Our next creature has a similar name if you look at the two names. That's because they're almost parallel versions. It's as if the act of becoming this goblin spirit forks, and down one fork we become so bestial and primeval and terrible that all sense of humanity is gone. And then down the other fork is a creature that might still retain some lingering memory of what it was. And you can see in its features perhaps what it was. But it's been so long now removed from not just living with humanity, but the whole ethos, the morality, the soul, the heart of what it means to be human has left it. It is going down a dark, monstrous road from which there is no escape. There is no comeback. And finally, we have a group that I probably would say are most related to, let's say, the Urukai in Lord of the Rings. They are ferocious, organised mountain folk, for want of a better term. They have weapons that they've either fashioned or stolen. They have an organisation. They have a leader. But they are just bestial with no morality. They are out for blood. You might find them, for example, in my role play that I'm going to play based on the Seventh Samurai, not just rebels attacking the village. These are the sorts of beasts that would join the rebels, and they would enjoy going first into the battle to rip and tear and destroy, where the rebels have still got some human sense of, that might not be the wisest thing I've ever done. I really want easy loot. I don't want to face samurai. I thought I was just bashing female peasants to steal their crops. These horrible creatures are not going to feel like that. They're going to just revel in it. And it's not like honourable Viking die with sword in my hand death. These are just meaningless killers. Probably the most destructive, dangerous creatures of the world we are calling goblin in the Japanese sense of the word. I suppose what I'm hoping is, from if you've watched this, and if you haven't watched it, I'm talking to myself, that you might be a Dungeons and Dragons player and go, yeah, I'm not going to change to do all this historical stuff, but hang on, that's mythological folklore / history, cultural things. I could really throw my dungeon people. I've been playing with the same dungeon team for 20 years. When they see what they think are goblins appear out of a swamp, they are not expecting them to be mischievous little chaps who want to steal their sandals and will run away if you bow to them. So they're going to lack the nuance to get away with that. Now I can help them by putting rumours in to the non-player characters. Similarly with instead of always having a bugbear, I can now have something else. Instead of always having great massive orcs, I can now have something else. But it might only be one tribe of them. I remember years ago, Citadel did a group, it must have been the 80s, Arboth and the Black Mountain Boys. If you remember Arboth and the Black Mountain Boys, this is the similar idea. They're not orc, Urukai, great orc. They are something different. Still related, but they have different characteristics. And maybe if the only message you take away from this is all of my races, elf, dwarf, whatever, they don't have to be exactly the same every time. There can be a little subtlety in how this group appears, which would challenge you, if it isn't doing, to come up with new plans and ways of dealing with the game that might excite you, and will certainly make your players feel perhaps a sense of fun, perhaps a sense of terror, perhaps a sense of confusion. Anyway, I just thought it was worth mentioning. Let me know what you think. Give us a comment. And I will probably, I think next, actually do the battle rather than do roleplay. What I could do, I could have them go from the meeting place and have lots and lots of little going into caves and all sorts of adventures on the way to get into the village, and whatever's left of the 7 in the party would be the ones that fought in the village. I don't think I'm going to do that for this game, because I don't want to do Oriental Test of Honour games over and over and over again. I want to look at something different. So there we are. So I'm going to say